Well, hello and a very warm welcome to our exclusive Coral Euro 2020 tournament preview show. It's a year later than scheduled, but the great news is now the start of the tournament is just a matter of days away. It promises to be a very special tournament for several reasons, not least because for the first time in Euros history, 3 of our home nations, England, Scotland and Wales, have qualified for the same tournament. So to celebrate that, to look ahead to the tournament, and for a little trip down memory lane at the same time, we have assembled, well, what can only be called a star-studded panel with almost 200 international caps between them and over 70 international goals. We have 3 of the finest forwards to ever represent their respective home nations. So, in no particular order, starting closest to me, a man who played 75 times for Wales, scoring 22 goals, including in 1991, the winner in a memorable 1-0 defeat of the mighty Brazil in Cardiff. And this man was also assistant to Wales manager John Toshak. It is a very, very warm welcome to Dean Saunders. Dino, welcome.
Nice to see you, yeah, thanks.
Representing Scotland in the middle here, we have a man who played 61 times for his country, scoring 19 goals, including at Euro 96, a spectacular, and that's the internet's word, not mine, a spectacular goal versus Switzerland. This man was also part of Walter Smith's coaching side when Walter was Scotland manager. It is, of course, the Scotland and Rangers legend, Mr. Ali McCoist. Ali, lovely to see you.
Nice to see you too, Steve-O. Thanks for the invite.
And last but certainly not least, on the far end here, we have England's representative, a man who played 63 times for his country, including 34 times as captain and scoring 30 goals, including 5 at Euro 96 that made him the tournament's top goal scorer then. It is, of course, the England and Newcastle legend, Mr. Alan Shearer. Al, a very warm welcome to you too.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Just to remind everyone, Group A consists of Turkey, Italy, Switzerland, and of course Wales. And Dean, before we look at the actual group, as a Wales fan, never mind a Wales ex-player, as a Wales fan, how important is it for the country that they've qualified again for a major tournament?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's such a difference, the 2016 qualifying and obviously we got to the semi-finals and it lifted the nation, really. There was, I mean, everybody just got a lift from it, tourism, everything. So it was brilliant for the country. So we've set the precedent and normally you can build on that. So we're going into it in good form, really. I think we've lost 3 games out of 13, something like that. You know, we've qualified for the World Cup. We won the Nations group, so we've been doing well. Gareth Bale's fit, which is, I was watching him yesterday, by the way, in the last minute against Leicester, thinking, don't pull your hamstring. Because Robert Page must have been sitting there with his fingers crossed, because while we've got Gareth Bale in the team, we've got a chance against anybody.
And realistically, you mentioned Gareth Bale there. How would you rate the strength of this squad compared to, well 5 years ago, as 2016 obviously was?
Totally different team. Hardly anybody left. There's Bale, Ramsey, Chris Gunter, Wayne Hennessy, I think Joe Allen if he's fit, but the rest of the team's completely different. Ryan Giggs has sort of given the youngsters a chance. There's no Ashley Williams, you know, he's left. Neil Taylor's doesn't look like he's going to be in the squad. So he's brought the youngsters through now, and hopefully the pace and the enthusiasm can get us through these games because they come one after another. So we've got a chance.
I just want to go back, as we said, we're a trip down memory lane here. You never managed to qualify for a major final with Wales. I think I'm right in saying, but you did come very close.
Why have you got to bring that up?
I know it's still raw all these years on.
Well, we did, yeah. I mean, the closest we come was against Romania for the World Cup in America. I mean, we had a penalty. 5 minutes to go it was, penalty against Romania, and Paul Bowden's taking the penalty. And he scored every goal for Swindon that he took that season, who were in the Premier League at the time, Swindon, well, First Division. And if it goes in, we're through. And Gary Speed, who's our friend who's no longer with us, he was at the side of me, and I said, if he misses, it's going to come off the bar. So we both followed in, and the ball hit the underside of the bar, bounced over our heads as we were running in. Wow. And we ended up not qualifying. But if it goes in, we would have qualified. So all my career, if I've got one regret, it's not playing in one of these tournaments. I would have had a chance now. 24 teams.
I know. It's amazing how memories Well, I can remember that penalty. You remember your own team, Scotland, obviously in England, in qualification and getting to finals, but I can remember that penalty.
We'll come on to your own particular penalty memories from European Championships later on, Ali. But going back to Group A, the Italians, 10 out of 10 in qualifying.
They look as though they're back, Steve, a little bit. You know what I mean? They kind of lost their way a little bit. The great teams of the past, the Italian teams of the past, and even more recently with Pirlo and boys like that. But I think they kind of lost their way a little bit. But they look more of a team now than they have been for a number of years for me, Steve-O. And I think they'll probably start, favourites in that group. And Mobley up front can score goals. They look as though, for the first time in a few years, as I say, they've got something about them. But I wouldn't be having them as one of my out-and-out favourites. Although I've said they've improved, I definitely think they have improved. I wouldn't be having them as one of my out-and-out favourites.
Al, looking at these groups, Group A here, how impressed were you by the Italians in qualifying?
Throughout my career, the Italians have always been difficult to beat, and I don't see that changing. The way they set up and the way they can defend and will defend. Defensively, the best I ever played against the Italians, and I think that will be the case. Yeah. And they'll set up as if they'll try and frustrate, and they'll be good at that. And I see that's how they'll do in the tournament. But I do see them getting through. As I said earlier, I think it's very difficult not to get through. So they'll get through, and that's how they'll make their mark, I think, being tough to beat.
I couldn't agree more. Well, there, I don't know if you played against, the national. I played against the national team, and their back four was like Baresi, Maldini, Costa Curta. I mean, ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous standard of a defender. And although it might not be that good, they'll still be defending, for their lives.
And they also scored a lot of goals in qualifying, which, of course, we're going to need as well. Al, looking at Wales from the England perspective, do you give them hope of getting out of this group?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely give them hope. I think we saw from a few years ago, if they get onto a bit of a roll, it'll be difficult to stop. Fans we're yet to know about, but yeah, I see them getting out of the group. It'll be difficult because I don't see Gareth Bale, one last tournament for him. Perhaps not as good as he was 4 or 5 years ago. Having said that, the way he's performed at Tottenham, he's still got plenty of ability. But whatever Wales do, he'll be key to that. So he has to stay fit.
Now, obviously, that's Italy and Wales in this group, but there are two others. Switzerland, they won their qualifying group, Group D, well-organised side. And Turkey, and of course, Dean, one of the clubs you played for was Galatasaray out in Turkey. Just give us an idea of the mentality, of the passion of those Turkish fans and what we might expect from them this year.
Well, everything stops. I mean, they're all rivals. Beşiktaş, Galatasaray, Fenerbahçe, Trabzonspor, the four big teams, they're all rivals until it's international day and they all get together. Everything stops. Everything. They shut all the shops. Game on. So they're really passionate, but they've got a good team as well. I mean, they've lost 3 games out of 23. They've got some really good players all of them have had good seasons at the clubs they're playing at. And they've got Yilmaz, the big striker, who's actually won the league in the French league. He's won him the league on his own with his goals. So they're a dangerous team. And if you ask me, which you probably will later on, who's the dark horses, I'm sorry, they're in our group, but it's Turkey for me. I think they've got a good chance of doing really well.
Ali, historically in the Euros, you look at Denmark winning it, you look at Greece winning it, so it's not always won by what we consider to be one of the better teams.
No, absolutely.
A team like Turkey, Dean made a case they could go on a run.
Of course they could, absolutely, and he's right what he said. I watched a little bit of Lille, believe it or not, because we did. One of my good friends actually works in the radio station in northern Paris and Lille, and they're a side. They're a proper team. Won it this year. They did a draw against Rennes, and the two boys up front, David and Yilmaz, have been brilliant. So Turkey will be an excellent side. I don't think there's any doubt about it. You look at that group, straight away you'd think the Italians would be favourites. That's the case. But it's dangerous. Switzerland could be dangerous. Switzerland are always capable of getting a result. But Turkey are a team that wouldn't surprise me to go well in the tournament.
You mentioned Denmark there before. When Denmark won it, they weren't even in the tournament.
That's right.
Well, they had to give their players a call to get off the beach.
It was a fact.
So you're back into the tournament. Was it 92?
92, because Brian Laudrup was at Rangers, which came to Rangers, and they were hauled because it was Yugoslavia. It was a former Yugoslavia that had the trouble. They went out. Denmark came in, and then they went on this run that was ridiculous. Yeah. Beat Germany in the final 2-0.
And they've got 2 good centre backs. One's playing for Liverpool. One's playing for Leicester. The Kabak at Liverpool, and
Soyuncu.
Yeah, Soyuncu, he's a good player as well. So they've got 2 good strikers and 2 good centre-backs and a load of passion. They've got a chance.
Well, that brings us on. Only 2, well, potentially 3 teams, but first and second automatically qualify. We'll know. So, Al, who are going to be the first 2 qualifiers from Group A?
Wales, it's Italy and Turkey.
And Turkey.
Disgusting.
Wales hoping for a best third place
Yes.
finish then. Ali, your predictions?
I'm going for Italy, Turkey, Wales and Switzerland in that order.
Dino,
Italy,
you've had 2
Wales.
votes against Wales here.
I'm going to go the complete opposite way here for obvious reasons. I'm going to go Wales to win the group and Turkey to come second. And Italy, no show.
Well, that's
There you are.
That's an incredible.
I'm going to go down that road because
bold shout.
I don't think Italy are as good as they were.
There we go. We've said it there. Dino flying the flag for Wales. That was Group A. Well, Dino, a lot of the Welsh fans here will be hoping that you are absolutely spot on with that.
And if Turkey win the group or Wales win the group, they've got an easy game in the last 16 because the draw sends them to maybe playing a third place team so they can go on a bit further.
That's our look at Group A there, obviously. So we must move on to Group B, of course. Group B consisting of Belgium, Denmark, Finland and Russia. And Ali, the obvious place is to start with Belgium. The old golden generation, a phrase we've heard a lot about this Belgian time. Is time running out for them to actually live up to that billing?
Yeah, you know, something that possibly is, Steve-o. But, I mean, you could rule them out at your peril. The last 2 in the World Cup, they were excellent, got to say. I think did they beat England twice? Am I right in saying that? Not to start any trouble in here. But I think they beat England twice in the tournament, and they're a good... Listen, you look at their side. It's full of world-class players. But I don't disagree with you where you point out that they might be getting to that stage where it might be the last throw of the dice for them.
Defensively?
That's where I would question defensively. Lukaku up front he's been frightening this year, absolutely frightening. But centre of defence.
Well, funny you should say that. The last game they played against Wales, Vertonghen and Vermaelen were in big trouble down the sides for pace. They had to bring the lad from Marseille on at half time, put him in the middle of them because they were getting run ragged. And the other end of the pitch, they're fine.
That's why I would
queuing up.
say, when you look at the goals, the creation, I don't think that'll be a problem for them at all with some of the players that they've got, albeit Hazard hasn't been anywhere near what he can be or perhaps should be. Scoring goals will be fine, but I don't fancy them defensively.
Do you know something? Before we go on, I see similarities between Belgium and England, actually. I think middle to front, absolutely different class, spoilt for choice. Middle of defence.
They are, Dean, number 1 in the FIFA World Rankings. Are the FIFA World Rankings worth much?
Well, if you have a good run of results, you shoot up there, don't you? But I'm looking at the players they've got, and your first thought when you start naming the players who can't get a game, Benteke, Batshuayi, they can't even get on the pitch. So you've got Lukaku up the middle, Hazard's brother, De Bruyne, Witsel. You know, they've got great players that can't actually get in at times. So they can beat anyone.
It's now or never, isn't it, for them?
Yeah, they've got a good goalkeeper, Courtois. So, as I said, the 2 centre-backs for me, getting on a bit. I don't know how old they are, Vertonghen and Vermaelen, but
you can just see the lack of mobility about them. You know, there's definitely lack of mobility about them. And again, short, sharp forwards, which you'll get, they could struggle.
Some of the other teams in this, Denmark, obviously, Christian Eriksen, probably the most well-known name there. Finland, of course, Timo Pukki, a man that we know very well.
He's been unbelievable, by the way. Honestly, his level of finishing, you know, for Norwich is... He's not of the quality of Kane, right? Make no mistake about it, or the top guys, whether it's Lewandowski or indeed Lukaku. But I don't mind telling you, you couldn't help but be impressed with his quality of finishing, and he's had a great season this year.
How important, we have 3 strikers here, of course. Al, how important is it when you've got a player like that can get you goals? Does that always give you a bit of hope?
Oh yeah, if you haven't got anyone to put the ball on the back of the net, no matter what standard of football you're playing, whether it's Premier League, whether it's Championship, or whether it's international football, you need someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. And when you've got that, you've got a chance.
Russia, Ali, had a good World Cup. That was on home soil, obviously. This is going to be a very different situation for them. But No great stars in the team, but as we've mentioned, this has been won by teams like that before, the likes of
I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised. I think the 2018 World Cup, which was magnificent, definitely being at home, I think absolutely aided the Russians. I mean, it was great. The whole place was magnificent. The fans got behind them. The place we went to was brilliant. The whole thing was brilliant, and you could see the ground swell every time the Russians get played. Natural when it's at home. I don't see them being anything like that, of that quality or on that run. What they look like to me, just a hard-working, organised side, and you need more than that to do well in this tournament.
Haven't they got 3 home games? I think they've got 2 or 3 home
St.
games.
Petersburg.
So it's a bit of an advantage. Denmark have got 3 home games as well. England have got 3.
Yeah.
Might make a difference.
Yeah.
I've tried to rate the teams, you know, like at the standard of football their players are playing at. And I've got Russia bottom.
Yeah.
At the point of the just, you know, what leagues they're playing in, and if are they playing regular? Because players playing above their levels don't get a lot of success, lose the confidence. So you can get teams full of players who are playing at lower levels who look good. But I've tried rating them. I've got Finland and Russia bottom of that. So I don't think Russia will do that good.
Well, Group B, 2 teams, possibly 3, will qualify, have to qualify. I assume we're all thinking Belgium will, Al, but who
Belgium
might
and
follow
Denmark.
them through?
Belgium and Denmark for me, yeah.
Ali?
I'm in agreement again, well.
I am. Belgium, Denmark second.
Well, it's lovely to get some agreement in this group. I
Bit
should,
of
of course,
unity there, Steve.
I should, of course, explain. We are here in the magnificent Wylam Brewery in the heart of Newcastle. So, Al, of course, it's a home game for you. Dino, you spent time here at Newcastle on the coaching staff. But Ali, you played down the road, Sunderland. So, how do you feel about being...
See, that's how I feel.
Now you know why you can smell something.
I'm looking over my shoulder.
That's why he came in a blacked out car.
I've got shin pads on and calf pads. Right, I've just got to tread carefully in this neck of the woods.
As if the England-Scotland rivalry wasn't enough, we also have the Newcastle-Sunderland. Dino, just keep an eye on that, please.
Do you know the fans here, though? All the clubs I played at, the fans here are just different, special. And people, like, I've never seen so many, you know, wearing the shirt, the fans who wear the shirt, like Newcastle shirts, everywhere you go. My plumber is a Newcastle fan, and I give him a kit I found in my cupboard, a Newcastle kit. He had it on, doing my plumbing the next day. He's got the kit on.
Leaks, though.
He was getting the central heating on in his Newcastle kit.
Dino's plumber there, hopefully still got the kit. We must move on, and of course, after B comes C, a group featuring the Netherlands, Ukraine, Austria, and North Macedonia. Dino, if you could just give us a player-by-player rundown of the North Macedonia squad.
What I will say is, they beat Germany, didn't they?
That was my line, hold on it.
They beat Germany, and they have pulled out some shock results. And to get there, I mean, I've looked at some of their players. Some of them are playing in Italy, I think. They've got 3 or 4 decent players. But who knows? I mean, did you expect us to do the research on North Macedonia?
In all seriousness, Ali, for a young nation like
brilliant.
North Macedonia,
The
we talk about the
story-
expanded tournament.
The story's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? The story is fantastic. A young country coming through. And Dino's right, we don't know an awful lot about them, but some great results. Listen, you go to Germany and win. Their record in qualification is the same as England. It's absolutely phenomenal throughout the years. So to go there and get a result would indicate they've got some good players. Will they qualify from the group? I'm not sure. Are they capable of getting a surprise in one of the games? Almost certainly.
Netherlands is the obvious team you look at here in this group. Al, do they have the right mix of youth and experience? Have they got quite enough at this level now?
Well, they'll have enough, I think, to certainly to get out of that group. Whether they've got enough to go and progress and win the tournament, I don't think so. Got one of the best players out injured. He won't be playing, will he? Van Dijk. So he'll be a huge blow to that team. So get out the group, yes. To win it, no.
I see Holland filling up a little bit the same as I see Italy. An improvement, but not the top. You know, I think they've improved the last couple of years again. They'll miss Van Dijk, who's arguably the best centre-back in the world. Memphis Depay will score goals for them, but I just don't think they're of the level looking to win it.
Holland historically is a team that people have said they've had problems with infighting as a team. They tend to argue with themselves. I think, having all been involved in international squads, How difficult is it, or otherwise, to put those club rivalries to one side once you turn up at an international base? Dean, how difficult is that?
I think, I don't know whether, you would have had problems, and you definitely had problems with, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, but with our country, we're that small a country that we were just pleased to see each other when we got together. It was no, Man United, Liverpool rivalry. We didn't have that many players playing for them big clubs. So all the players I played with now are all my friends. I class them as my friends. I don't know whether I'm their friend, but I class them as my friends. So we never had any other rivalry. We just got on. That was the only way we could win, if we all got on and we all pulled together. I don't know about you. Have problems, Celtic, Rangers.
Do you know something? Exact same. You'd be absolutely delighted to hear that when we used to sit around the table, at dinner table, it would be the Celtic boys, the Rangers boys, the Aberdeen boys. Never, ever a problem. Honestly, never a problem. Well, listen, if you've got a problem, you're not going to succeed. So you all realise that, to have any success or any chance of any success, you've all got to be, working for each other and getting on with each other. And we always had, with a great group of boys, not necessarily the best team in the park, but we always had a good set of lads.
And Al, was pulling on the England shirt more important than any club rivalry? Were you able to put that to one side if they existed?
Certainly in major tournaments, yes, because you're there for a long time. Whereas you're meeting up for select matches or different one-off matches, then there was the rivalry that you could feel that was there. Maybe Man United players would sit on one table, Newcastle or Liverpool or whatever that may be. But going into major tournaments, there was never ever an issue.
Group C, to go back to it, Netherlands, Ukraine, Austria, North Macedonia. I mean, do you know which two are going to qualify from what looks a very open group?
I'm going to go Holland, Austria. Holland to win it, Austria second, but I wouldn't be surprised if Macedonia surprise a few. Holland got good footballers, missing Van Dijk, but if they get the game together. Like you said, they've always had problems arguing. And when we've all coached Dutch players and played with them, and they're educated from that age how to play football in a Johan Cruyff type manner. And when they come to us and play for us and we tell them to do something else, they tend to argue with you. All of them tend to argue. They've all got an opinion on what we should be doing in training and football. So when they get together, there's just a mass of opinions and they end up arguing with each other. Would you say that was fair?
Do you know something? Out of all the international boys that I've played with and played alongside, the Dutch are probably the most capable of that. They're very, careful what you say here now, they're very opinionated and they believe 99 times out of 100 they're right.
Probably the way they were taught to play football, the way the Premier League's being played now, total football, that's how they were brought up. So when they come to England and we're playing 4-4-2 and getting it forward, they're all going, what's this? And they were probably right to argue, but it's totally different for them.
Well, Frank de Boer is the man tasked with keeping this squad unified. Ali, who comes out of Group C, a tight-looking Group C for you?
It really is. I would go with Dino. I would say the Netherlands and Austria, but that group wouldn't surprise me if North Macedonia get a result against somebody and Ukraine are capable of beating somebody as well. So it's a tough one to call, but I'd go with the same two as Dino went with.
It certainly could be one where the calculators are needed for third place. Albert, who comes through in the top two spots?
Holland to win it, Ukraine second, and North Macedonia might just nick a place in third.
Well, that would be one of the stories of the tournament, no question at all. That was Group C, which brings us on to the small matter of Group D, featuring, of course, the Czech Republic, Croatia, Scotland, and England. Before we go on to this summer's tournament, we've got to go back to Euro 96. And before we go to the two gentlemen here, do you know, I want to ask you, who does a Welsh football fan support when England plays Scotland? Or do you just switch off?
Let me have a think about it, Scotland. I think it's just historic. We want England to lose, don't we?
Well, we might.
My dad played for England, so I'm a bit different. I've thought of, do you know what? I've always thought all the British teams, I've always supported all the British teams in the major tournaments, even though we're not in it. I've always wanted them to do well because my career was in England and I earned my living in England and I wanted that to be the best league and that to be so I was playing in the best place. So I always wanted them to do well.
He's just trying to backtrack now.
Dino very much there, getting back
to that, Scotland.
Ali, from an England point of view, we might just upset you even more. Euro 96.
Yes.
A memorable tournament for you in
Oh, it was a brilliant
many ways.
It was a brilliant tournament. It really was. And it was a tournament, in my opinion, 96 was a little bit like 90 with Bobby Robson's team. England should have actually gone on to win the tournament, I think. Both those tournaments. I don't think they started particularly well in 96. Got the draw against Switzerland. I think Turkey, was it Turkey who scored the penalty? Anyway, one each. It was right, one each?
Yeah.
One each. And then before the game, we're thinking to ourselves, if we can keep them quiet, we just think, because there's one or two things going on in that England camp pre the tournament.
Yeah.
One
or two.
Exactly. And we're thinking to ourselves, we'll just keep them quiet, and we did. We actually did. We did all right first half. Did okay. I thought, I've watched it since, and we played all right first half. And then the first goal, great goal, ball from Gary. Alan finishes it superbly well. And then we get the penalty. And it's one of these ones, look, if your auntie, it should be your uncle. But I honestly felt if the penalty goes in, I honestly believe we might have went on and won the game. We'll never know. Great save with Seaman. And then what happened 2 minutes later was just genius, to be quite frank with you. Absolute genius.
What was Terry Venables like, Al?
Amazing. He was a
he?
brilliant. He was a brilliant coach, and he was a brilliant man manager. When you go out for coaching sessions to work hard and to enjoy it, his sessions were brilliant. You could be out there for hours, and you wouldn't even be bothered about going back in. His sessions were that good. But not only did he put a good session on, and was a brilliant coach, he was a genius as a man manager, which is probably more important than the coaching side of things at that level, I think. So he was outstanding.
You mentioned the second goal, of course, which any England fan and Scotland fan will remember to this day. Scored, of course, by Paul Gascoigne, a player, Ali, you know well from Rangers. Yeah. Al, obviously, you know well as a fellow Geordie. Just where does Paul sit in the pantheon of great players that these islands have produced? Never mind.
Well, I think when you go through the history of the European Championships, there were two iconic goals, for me anyway. One is Van Basten's volley. Was it 88?
Yeah.
Against Russia in the final, I think it was. And Paul Gascoigne's goal against Scotland in 96. I mean, the sheer audacity from even to try that and then to stick it past the keeper as he did, to flick it over the left for it to land perfectly, to hit it with the right foot and then connect the way he did. The ball over the top from Anderton. I think Teddy played it to Anderton. Anderton knocked it over for Gaza, and then the rest is history. And I mean, it was the way he placed the water bottle for a celebration turned out to be perfection as well, because of the dentist chair, which Ali mentioned, the shenanigans that went on in Hong Kong beforehand, which is another reason why we had to do well in the tournament, because we were splashed all over every single newspaper on the front page. So we had to do well.
I'm going to tell you something, because he was playing was at Rangers at the time. I don't know if you know this, Al, do you know he never mentioned that goal when he came back up the dressing room, right? And I promise you, never mentioned it. And I'll tell you, I've got my own theory on it. I'll tell you why. Because I think even he knew how good it was. I reckon if it had been a tap in, it come off a goal, he'd have knocked it in, we'd never have heard the end of it. But I just think because the goal was so brilliant, I wouldn't say he was embarrassed by it, but he just thought, I better watch him go again. What a goal.
It's not like him.
I know, it's not, to be fair.
That penalty that Seaman saved, how many times have you thought if you were taking it?
Just probably every day since it's happened. But listen, and people they ask you this question all the time, Steve, all right? And
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, I'm going to tell you something you probably do know. Now, it didn't affect Gary in the slightest, but the ball moved, right? I am telling you, it moved.
It did.
I'm standing 18-yard line, ready to run in. Gary struck it beautifully, no doubt about it, and it wouldn't have mattered because it was a great save. But see, just before he hits it, do you know it moves?
Yeah,
the ball
it does.
Actually moves.
If you watch it from behind, the ball actually does move, without a doubt. Yeah.
Incredible.
It was a packed Wembley, all blowing
It was.
at the same time. There was one more game after that. So England are beating Netherlands 4-0.
Yep.
Scotland at that point are qualifying.
Yep.
And then England concede a goal. What was the view from the Scottish camp?
Well, if I was going to be brutally honest, the view from the Scottish camp was quite simple. I should have added to the 1-0 tally myself, never relying on England to keep a clean sheet. No. The reason we never qualified was because we didn't score enough goals against the Swiss. We had a good result. We beat them 1-0, and it gave us an opportunity. England, we were aware of what was going on at Wembley. and England was out of this world that night. Absolutely fantastic. Big Alan Teddy in particular was superb. It was tough to take, though, the way it happened, obviously, with the goal going through Big David's legs and was it Clivert? I think it
Clivert,
was,
yeah.
in the last 5-10 minutes or so. But that's happens. The main reason we never qualified was because we didn't score enough goals against Switzerland, which perhaps I should have added to the tally.
That was Euro 96. This is Euro 2020, albeit in 2021. Ali, if we stick with you, Scotland squad this time around. What are your hopes? What are your expectations?
You know something? I was so pleased when we qualified for obvious reasons, Steve, all right? We haven't been to a major championship since '98. There's a lot of very, very good Scottish players haven't had an opportunity. Same in Wales. I mean, previously, you think some of the brilliant players that you've had haven't had an opportunity to play in a major championships. So that's who I was delighted for. Clearly delighted for the fans and the country, but I was really pleased for the players to get an opportunity to go to the Euros and play themselves. Because what an experience it is, represent your country. It's absolutely fantastic. And the great thing is, we've now got players that are playing at the top level. You know, we've got Robertson, Liverpool, Tierney, Arsenal, McTominay, Man United. We've guys that are playing in the best league in the world and handling it fine. That's the big difference. We don't have, the one thing we don't have a Gareth Bale, we don't have an Aaron Ramsey, we don't have a Jack Grealish, whoever it may be, but we're solid. We really are solid. You know, we've got a reasonable defence. Midfield's probably the strongest area of our team, and with a bit of luck, will be difficult to beat. Our problem will be scoring goals. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Shea Adams has made a difference to us since he's come into the squad, but it's just a real bonus. The great thing as well, there's nobody expecting an awful lot from us. Al would know better than me about the pressure on England, particularly in home tournaments. You know, playing away from home is probably just as bad, but home tournament, I'd imagine, where they are playing most of the games, with added pressure, there's nobody really, I don't think, expecting an awful lot from us. So hopefully we can make that work for us.
You talk about pressure there, and Al, in many ways, this is or could be a virtual home tournament for England, the way the fixtures could pan out for them. Does that bring extra pressure? Should they just be using it to their advantage?
Certainly from experience, with playing in Euro 96, it's a huge advantage because once you get onto a bit of a roll and you start to get a result, you can feel the expectation of the country right behind you, and that didn't help you. Ali's right, we didn't get off to a good start in terms of performance-wise in the first game against Switzerland back in '96, but then after the Scotland result, then the Holland performance, you gather great momentum, and I think that could help. And I hope I'm not thinking too far ahead, but both semi-finals and the final are at Wembley, so if England can get on a bit of a roll, then that will without doubt. And there hasn't been anything good that has come out of COVID, but having it a year later has just given 4 or 5 players a year's more experience in terms of playing wise, because England have got some talented young boys now, particularly in forward positions, and another year's experience won't have done them any harm at all.
That Foden wasn't getting a game a year ago.
Yeah.
He's probably played 30 games.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you look at when you add Foden to that, Mount to that. I mean, Jude Bellingham, who's only 17.
Exactly.
Jack Grealish is another one. So the talent that England have in so many positions, particularly from midfield onwards, is really, really exciting.
That's the positives, but are there weaknesses perhaps elsewhere on the pitch for England?
Yeah, I think we have a weakness right down the middle in terms of the 2 centre-halves and possibly the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper doesn't fill me with great confidence. He's made a few errors. He has done well in an England shirt. I mean, when you go back to 2 to 3 years ago now, when they got all the way to the semi-final, he played a huge part in England doing that. But he is capable of an error, particularly the way Gareth wants England to play. And I don't think we've got great depth in those centre-half positions. If either was to get injured, this question mark re Harry Maguire, and that would worry me if he's not fit.
Dean, looking at it with your half-English hat on, as you mentioned, your dad did play for England. How excited are you by this group of young forward players in particular that Gareth Southgate has?
Yeah, and we were talking earlier, he's got a problem who to pick. I mean, you've got Grealish, Mount there and Foden. How do you get them all in the same team?
Do you get them all in the same team?
We were trying to find a way earlier, and then we start talking about Declan Rice and Henderson to try and who do we play wide? You've got Sterling, Rashford, Sancho. Like you've got to try and get all them players in the team. It's not easy. The back four, I think the back four picks itself.
I think what Gareth could do is, because he might have the same fear as what I've just mentioned in terms of defensively, which is why against better opposition he might go in with 2 sitting midfielders, whether that be Rice or whether that be Henderson. Phillips may have an injury now after what happened to him last weekend, but I don't think he'll play all 3 in the same 11. No, I think that would be too much of a risk.
Ali, do you think Gareth Southgate knows his best 11? And does it matter if he doesn't? Because, as Al said there, you might change it depending on who the opposition is.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, Steve. I think Al's right. I mean, with the greatest respect, I think he would get criticised if he plays 2 sitting boys against Scotland, for example. You know, I see him going one. He'll definitely, but against France or against Spain or against Belgium, it's an obvious thing to do to try and tighten up. Does he know his best team? I tell you right now, he probably does, but I don't know what it is. You get that many options. You got many options at right back, never mind anywhere else. The forward players, middle to front, spoke about Belgium, middle to front, England, they've got to be as good as I can remember them in a long, long time. Foden, Mount, Maddison, Grealish, outstanding. You know, Kane, Rashford. I mean, it's incredible.
International football as well, you haven't got the ball for long periods because they're all good. All the midfield players are brilliant on the ball. So you've got to have players who can get the ball back off them as well. And Foden, Mount and Grealish are not the best at getting the ball back off you. So they need someone like Rice, Henderson or Phillips, that type of player, who's not the unsung hero, who actually has got some discipline that doesn't go and join in the play when, you know, they're getting on top of teams, actually smells danger, a bit like Kante does. You know, smells the danger and sits there. So we tried to pick the team earlier. We were struggling.
I think that could be a huge positive for England because players have had a long, hard period of playing non-stop football. And there's no doubt that Gareth, I think, will have to rotate. Now, if he takes one out, normally when you bring one in, you may weaken the team slightly.
Yeah.
But I think on this occasion, if he was to take Mount out and bring Grealish in, for example, I don't think that is any way weakening the team. So I think he's going to have to do that at some stage during the tournament, which I think will help England because of that strength.
Now, there are 2 other teams in this group which we shouldn't forget about. We'll come on to that. But I just want to go back to, obviously, Euro 96, England played Scotland. Dean, am I right in saying for Wales you never played against England, but you did play against Scotland?
Yeah, I never played against England. I was 20 when I first played, and I finished 17 years. We never had a game against England for 17 years.
But you played a game against Scotland?
Once. Kilmarnock away, 1-0, Artson.
Yeah.
Doesn't forget.
Was you playing?
No. Nothing to do with me.
I can't remember.
That was the reason it was 1-0.
There'd be 0-0 if I was playing.
I was going to say I can't remember you.
What are those home nations games like, Ali? Are they like, say, a derby in football where form to a degree can go out of the window?
They are to us. Listen, I think it's fair to say that, particularly ourselves, when we play against England, and as much this time as ever before, we will be the underdogs, and that's fine. That's the way it suits us. Because you look at England squad, England team, it's a different level from the Scottish team. Absolutely, let's be honest about it. But, you know, shocks and surprises can happen. Of course they can happen. They've happened before and they'll happen again. For us to beat England, right, the goalkeeper will have to play exceptionally well. We'll have to defend really well. We'll have to carry a bit of luck. And we'll have to take any chance that comes your way. All these things will have to fall into place for us to beat England. But it can happen.
For us, Wales as well, any sport, the biggest game is against England. Brazil, Wales is not as big as England against Wales. If we were playing England, the whole country stops no matter what the sport is. We've got to beat England. That's the way it is.
No,
Same in Scotland, isn't it?
They're great games to play in, Dave. I was fortunate to play in 3 England-Scotland games, 2 at Wembley and 1 at Hampden. And we battered Scotland at Hampden in the playoffs. But then Scotland came down to Wembley and nicked that result with Don Hutchison scoring at the far post. And the other one, of course, being Euro 96. But to play in, they're magnificent. England might have better players on the paper, but it doesn't mean anything. If anything, that can help the Scottish players. So
I remember going to Scotland England games as a boy, right? My dad used to take me, I went to Hampden in 73 and 75 and all that stuff. And I can remember as a boy feeling sick when England went into our penalty box. Do you know what I mean? Just that feeling, just get rid of it, you know what I mean? That's how it affects you.
3 centre forwards sat alongside me. Harry Kane, how important is he to England, and can he be the star of this tournament?
Yeah, and I said to Alan earlier, if Harry Kane's injured, who's playing? Calvert-Lewin. Okay, if Calvert-Lewin's injured, who's playing? Danny Ings. Okay, and then I think back to Alan's time, our time. Shearer, Owen, Fowler, Esky, Crouch, Sheringham, Ferdinand. Endless list of strikers. And they've just seemed to have... Scotland, McCoist, McAvenny, Kenny Dalglish, Joe Jordan. Scotland, Wales. We haven't named our centre forward. No disrespect, Kiefer Moore's playing at Cardiff. But all the centre forwards, Ireland, can you name their centre forward? So a centre forward now is rare. Lewandowski, Kane, Aguero. Who else? There's not many more.
Lukaku.
Yeah. Cavani at Man United has made the other strikers look stupid since he's gone in there, because he actually makes the right runs and he does the things a poacher does. Poacher, if you like. Harry Kane's a poacher, but he's got a bit of class as well. He scores from all angles, considering he's not quick as well, but he's vital to England.
I think the class now is a forward, aren't you? I mean, you look at Salah in the Premier League and Mane and even Ronaldo and Messi, they're forwards rather than being the traditional type centre forward, which we've seen over the years.
I think Kane's vital. I really do for England, Steve-o. In terms of his goal scoring, he just loves scoring goals. He's the modern day Al for England. There's no doubt about it. He's equally as important to England as Alan was to his England team. You know, and if he doesn't play in that England side, I don't care what anybody says. If he doesn't play against us, we'd be delighted.
There's one potential subplot here unfolding as we speak. We still don't know what Harry Kane's club future is going to be. Al, how much of a distraction could that be to Gareth Southgate?
I don't think it'll be a distraction at all. I went into Euro 96 probably knowing that I was going to move. I also went into Euro 96 not scoring for England for 2 years, 12 games. But it didn't affect me, and I think Harry will be exactly the same. It won't be sorted before the tournament started. I'd be amazed if it was. It'll have to wait until after he's finished. But I think he's that strong mentally that he'll be able to put that to one side. And he comes into this tournament absolutely on fire. He's played in a Tottenham team that has struggled for large parts this season, but that hasn't affected him at all. I mean, his goals haven't suffered, and the assists, he seems to be getting better. So if England are going to do well in this tournament, he will have to, no doubt about it, score goals.
Group D, Dean, we should say, has Croatia, the World Cup runners-up, of course, beat England in the semi-finals. Then Czech Republic qualified behind England, but did beat England in qualifying. This is not just about England and Scotland, this group.
No, they've got some good players, Croatia, obviously done well, but I don't see them coming anywhere near England. I think England are going the group comfortably. Far better all over the pitch. And I think Scotland, and I'm not just saying it because Ali's here, I think Scotland have got the spirit. They're underdogs. No one thinks they're going to do any good. The players arrive there, and they've got a bit of class. There is a bit of class in the squad, like Ali said, players playing at the highest level. And I think Scotland can do well. I think you can, like you said, if you win the first game, you've more or less qualified.
That's the one for us. That's the big game for us. I look at Croatia, Steve-o, and I said that Holland and Italy were on that, but not at the top. I think Croatia are going the opposite direction. Some great players. Listen, it's a kind of dangerous thing to say. They've got world-class players of the past. Modric, Rakitic, great, fantastic talent. But I don't see them being the same side that were World Cup finalists in 2018. We'll still give a heck of a game, make no mistake about it. But I see England being...
But you know, even a draw's not a bad result. Look at what happened to Portugal when they won it. I mean, didn't they draw their
Didn't win a
three
game.
qualifying games? They only won one game in 90 minutes of that whole tournament.
Yeah.
And that was against Wales, I think it was, wasn't it?
Stayed in it. They stayed in it, stayed in it.
Yeah.
And then Ronaldo wins in the tournament.
Yeah.
Header against Wales, semi-final, remember it?
Yeah.
Remember it well. And then
Devastated.
I think did he not come off in the final?
He did.
I think Ronaldo came off in the
Coaching
final as
from
well.
the side of the pitch.
And then
He
just took on the manager's job after that, didn't he?
No, you're talking about, sorry to change the subject, you're talking about strikers. Like, we think differently to the rest of the players. I used to not sleep if I never scored. I don't think that happens anymore. I don't think Harry Kane won't sleep.
Well, they've got this thing called assists now. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, would you be sitting here saying, by the way, I scored that, but I tell you what, I got a couple of assists?
See, Al's just said
me a favour.
Al's just brought it up there. He hadn't scored for 2 years for England. It's still hurting him. He still can't believe it's happened. He brought it up. He had to get it out. Now and again, he has to get it off his chest. I used to go 8 games every season without fail. 8 games without scoring, 10. And I'd be like, don't speak to me. I'm in turmoil. But I used to get 6 tap-ins a season, rebounds off the keeper. Before the season kicked off, I used to think, I'll get 6 rebounds. I'll nick 6 from corners, flick-ons, sniffing around in the box. And I'll get 6 flick-ons from goal kicks. There's 18 before I've kicked the ball. That's all I used to think. And I didn't actually care how I played. I didn't care how I played, did you? If you scored, you went home. No. But that mentality, how do you coach that now? Because, like Al says, they're all forwards. Assists. Sterling plays like a striker or a winger, and he comes off. Is he bothered if he scores? I'm not sure. Cavani is. Kane is. Aguero is. Vardy is.
So as a layman, what we're saying is strikers are selfish.
Yeah.
What it boils down to.
Yeah.
Nods all around.
I used to go, a number of times I went like that. I don't know about you. I shoot, and somebody goes, when you passed me, never seen you. Sorry.
Just give him one of them. Sorry.
I didn't see you.
Sorry.
I didn't see you. And I said, if I saw you, I'd be a midfield player. I only seen the goals.
Well, one of the very famous goals from Euro 96 was the one of the goals against the Netherlands where Teddy Sheringham passed to you. The roles were reversed. No way are you passing to Teddy.
Well, if the role reversed, if I was Gazza, I wouldn't have passed the first one. And I couldn't believe he did. And then Teddy to square it to me, there's no way I would pass that, absolutely. So, yeah.
Back to Group D, Al. Croatia. Have England improved enough since that semi-final defeat in the World Cup? And I know Croatia on the downgrade. You're confident we can reverse that?
England have improved, and England have certainly got better players now than they had 3 years ago. Having said that, Croatia will still be a difficult game. And I see England qualifying top of that group with Croatia. And I think Scotland will do enough to get into 3rd place. We'll see them qualify. Just to keep my pal happy.
I'm delighted with that.
There's some very
diplomatic.
Ali,
your group? I agree with Al up to a point, but I am slightly... It would be remiss of me as a Scotsman not to allow myself to get carried away. So England will win the group. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think we can finish 2nd. I really do think we can finish 2nd above Croatia and the Czech Republic.
I'll guarantee you, right, at the end of this group, England will be in a discussion whether they should try and finish 2nd on purpose.
I know. I've looked at that as well.
Because...
Just to explain what we're talking about here, Dean, is who they could face in the last 16.
Well, it's the death group, Group F. So they're either playing... There's Germany, France, Portugal and Hungary in that group. England win the group, they're either playing Germany, France or Portugal probably. If they finish 2nd, they might miss France. But it'll be a dilemma when it comes to the end of the group. Shall we deliberately finish 2nd or shall we try and win the group?
But that's a serious point. And as ex-players, you can't. Surely every game you have to go out with the mentality of trying to win, Al.
Yeah. They'll try and win every game. They won't be trying to position themselves to finish 2nd. No chance. They'll try and win that group and they'll take it whoever they have to face.
Do you think, I agree with you as it happens, but do you think other countries would do that? Do you think Portugal, for example, if they get into the last game and a point suits them better, bizarrely, than 3 points, do you think they've got a different mentality?
Well, who would you rather play? Croatia, Czechoslovakia or Scotland or England?
Correct.
So you end up going, well
if I'm Portugal...
We'll miss England out and we'll play the other 3.
100%.
Yeah.
How far should England go in this tournament? How far do you think they will go?
On the way I've been rating the teams, all of England's teams are playing in the highest level. All the players, are playing at the highest level. So they're up there for me. France have got another team they could pick. They're all playing at the highest level. So I think England is between England, France, Belgium have got a chance, Germany have got an outside chance, but for me, Portugal. But for me, it's England and France.
Ali, Same question to you. How far do you think England can go? And equally, what would be your expectations for Scotland be? What would be a good tournament for Scotland?
An excellent tournament for us would be getting out of the group. That would be an excellent tournament. And I think we can do it. I really do. In terms of England, again, it's a pressure thing. I mean, anything other than the semi-finals is probably a disappointment. I mean, that's me looking at it from the outside, looking in as a Scotsman. Can they win it? You better believe they can win it. 100% they can win it. They've got the players to do it. I 100% agree with Dino, though. I would probably have France slightly ahead of them in favouritism for the tournament. Belgium and the other ones, the 3 teams. And on their day, anybody at that level, Italy, Holland, Spain, we haven't even spoken about Spain yet, Portugal, they're all capable of beating each other. But England, can they win it? Yes, they can.
Al, your thoughts, your prospects for England?
Yeah, they can win it, but I think there are better equipped and more experienced teams in doing that, in particular France. The number of players that they've got, top quality players, and with the addition of Benzema back in their squad, that can only enhance their chances. So I think if England can get to a semi-final and play the football that everyone wants them to, then I wouldn't be too displeased with that.
Final question before we move on from Group D. Will you be more nervous watching England-Scotland this time around, Ali, than when you were playing in it? And same for you, Al.
I don't know how Al thinks about it or Dino thinks about it. I think you're always more nervous watching. I don't know why. Maybe it's a mental thing. You feel, maybe rightly or wrongly, there's something you can do about it when you're on the park. But I always feel more nervous watching.
Yeah, definitely. You never get nervous playing. Excited, absolutely, but not nervous. So Ali's right. You can do something about it when you're playing, but when you're in the stands there, you're just like any other normal fan. So yeah, definitely more nervous watching.
You can't say that anymore, can you? Right, come on, lads. First challenge we get today. Let's get wide into these. Then the rules have changed. You can't do any of that anymore.
Forget that.
So there's no intimidation. So it used to be Scotland and England used to be a war. The game was a war, wasn't it? And it was tackles that high. And it was who's getting in first. But now, them days are gone. Different sport.
I remember we played England at Hampden, right? And I'm in a tunnel with Big Butch. And Big Butch is my captain and centre half at Rangers. And I went, all right, big man. And he looked at me as if I was someone from Mars. He just scraped off his shoe, man. And I went, oh, here we go. You know, it's one of those.
I remember we played Germany at home, and we had to win to qualify. Or we had a game after that. That was it. And Terry Orth was the manager. And just before we walked out, his team talk was, right, hands up, who's on a yellow card? So all the lads put their hands up, and Barry Owen never put his hand up. He went, so you've not got one, Barry? He went, no. First chance you get, let's get the crowd on our side. First chance you get in there, get stuck in. But that was the team talk.
Well, we'll move on to Group E, which, just to remind people, consists of Spain, their old rivals from qualifying Sweden, Poland and Slovakia. Ali, Spain, high achievers over the years, but what might we expect from them this time around?
Not out-and-out favourites for me this year. I said to you, I think my favourites, France, kind of Belgium, England, that type. Full to rule them out, though. I mean, they've got wonderful talent. Ramos hasn't made the squad, I see, which is surprising, although I think he only played one game since March, so maybe that's a little bit more understandable than I first thought. I just don't think they've got the fear factor that they had. Steve, old boys, I'm not sure we agree. You know what, listen, as I say, wonderfully talented players. Are goals going to be a problem for them this year? Have they got Morata? They don't have an awful lot, you know, in terms of a real out-and-out goal threat, I don't think. But, listen, they'll be easy on the eye and they'll be more than capable of beating, you know, a lot of teams, the majority of teams.
Al, Group E, to me, looks very open. Sweden, Poland, Slovakia. Now, we talk about where a goal is going to come from Spain. Poland have one of the arguably best centre-forwards in the world in Robert Lewandowski. But is that enough for this Poland side?
For them to do well, for them to get out of the group, then he's the one that's going to have to fire them to victory in games, and he can do that. He's been a killer marksman for so long now and been hugely successful at it. I think his record in the Poland shirt is something like 68 in 120 or something like that, which for one of the lesser known countries who haven't scored that many, for him to have achieved that is incredible. So He's their main player without a doubt. I mean, unbelievable.
Andy might be reasonably fresh a little bit. I know he was out for a few weeks here, and Munich certainly missed him. He came back in, and I think he broke Gerd Muller's record at the weekend there with the last kick of the ball for Munich. So he might be a little bit fresher than maybe a few of the strikers.
You would say, wouldn't you, like just try and keep it 0-0, because at some point
He'll get a chance.
he's going to get a chance to score you a goal and win 1-0.
Yeah.
That's probably the tactics every game.
Dean, do you agree that this Group E, looks very open? And
Yeah, I don't think Slovakia are going to feature in it. I think Sweden have got some good players and didn't do very well in the Nations League, but since that point they've won a lot of games, and they've got some good young players. Poland, I don't think have got enough. They've got a centre forward who's world class, but I don't think they've got enough. So I think Spain, any team that leaves Ramos out of it, squad, they must be good.
No Ibrahimovic for Sweden.
No, that's right.
I'll tell you who might do well, the boy Torres from Man City. He might do well for him. He's sort of started banging the goals in, hasn't he, as the season's gone on. But I can't see anybody getting past Spain.
somebody's going to have to finish second to Spain. Who might that be?
I'm going to go Sweden. Spain, Sweden.
Ali, Spain and Sweden did finish first and second in their qualifying group to get to this stage. Do you agree with Dean? Or?
I do. I think it's a flip of the coin, really. I think Lewandowski is absolutely massive for Poland, as you would expect. But I could see Sweden nicking second place with Spain winning the group.
Ali, it seems we're going through this group. None of us seem particularly excited. We don't think that the potential winners of the tournament are going to come from this group.
No, I don't think so either. I think Spain, although have some really talented players and will play some really exciting football, not sure they'll have enough though. I think there are countries that will be better than them, France being one of them. So, but I see them without doubt winning this group, and I see Poland finishing second simply because of Lewandowski.
Talking of Robert Lewandowski there, 3 games here, potentially, one in the last 16. I mean, 5 goals, 1 new top goal scorer in Euro 96. Lewandowski very much in the mix for that. He's that good.
I think you'd have to progress to a quarter-finals, I would guess, to have a chance of winning the Golden Boot. Don't see Poland going that far.
Pretty unanimous there that Spain will be leading the way through from Group E. That leads us on, of course, to Group F. And, well, we need a cliche group of death in every tournament. And, Ali, we certainly have it here. Hungary just have the small opposition of Portugal, France and Germany.
Well, I think we're all probably in agreement it'll be a major surprise if the front 3 aren't the big 3 that you mentioned there. I think Hungary will be finishing 4th in that group. It would be a surprise if anything else than that happens. It's such a tough group to call. It really, really is. I mean, France, for me, as I said earlier, will be favourites just to win the tournament. Germany will be dangerous. I do not think for a minute they're as dangerous as they once were. I think they, as a nation, are probably going through a little bit of a transitional period as well. They've definitely got excellent players. It would be an absolute fool that would say otherwise. But, for example, if they're playing a head-to-head tomorrow against France, I fancy France to beat them. I also think Portugal on their day can be absolutely outstanding. They'll be easy on the eye, make no mistake about it. They'll have a lot of fans out there, neutrals will be watching Portugal, hoping and thinking that they'll do well. So it is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult group to call, other than the respect that I expect Hungary to finish 4th in it.
Al, just a couple of stats stood out for me here. For Germany, this is the 26th consecutive major finals they've qualified for. We'd be foolish to say they couldn't go deep in this tournament.
Yeah, I don't think any of us will. I think they have to, because of that, be respected, and they will. But that is an incredible group that they're in. France, for me, will be rightly named favourites for the tournament. But also, when you look at Portugal, and you look at some of the players that Portugal have, without even mentioning one of the greatest names of footballers we've ever seen in world football, in Ronaldo. European Championships top scorer with 9. I'm pretty certain that he'll go on to become the top scorer on his own, because he's joined with Platini, I think it is, who got 9 in that one tournament. So don't be surprised if Ronaldo is top goal scorer after that. So it's a brilliant group to watch. Not so much if you're involved in it.
Dean, Al mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo there. At the very start, I introduced the panel here as scoring more than 70 international goals between you. A fantastic achievement. Cristiano Ronaldo has scored 103 international goals. He's 36 years of age. Dean?
Well, I mean this in the right way. He's a freak. He's not, there's Messi and Ronaldo. They're just on another planet. They just can do everything. And every manager, clever managers, tried different tactics to stop them scoring. They score every week. 50 every season, Messi and Ronaldo. And they still manage to do it. They've tried man-marking him, putting 3 around him, playing 3 full-backs on one side of the pitch. He can run quicker than you. He can jump higher than you. He's more determined than everybody on the pitch. He can dribble past people, so he can do everything. Bale's a bit like that, but not as good. But he's just nearly in that class where he can do a bit of everything. But also, they've got Fonte, who's had a great season, and Pepe at the back. So they can keep the back door shut as well. So they've got a great chance.
Diaz.
Another one. Great. They've got great defenders as well. So, again, it's hard to see getting past France with the players they've got. Germany haven't got an out-and-out striker, but they've got lots of good young players that the manager decided to go with. Werner's one of them, Sane. They've got real talented, energetic, quick players, but haven't got an out-and-out striker. But I wouldn't be surprised with the amount of chances Werner's had this season if it all just comes good for him at the Euros. I wouldn't be
That's
surprised.
how football works sometimes, isn't it?
Every chance he gets, he finishes it at the Euros, and all the Chelsea fans are going, "Where's he been?"
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would be, I've got to say to you. I mean, he's incredible. He really is.
He gets chances.
Dean, unbelievable. And you know something? I don't know whether you agree, lads. He looks to me as though he's an unlucky finisher. Sometimes he scores goals and there'll be somebody offside. You see it coming off. He scored more goals that have been disallowed this season than actually goals that have counted.
He constantly runs offside,
which is a remarkable, and which would be unbelievably frustrating because he doesn't need to with that pace.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have that pace, you can get offside, you play on somebody's shoulder, but he's got the pace to give himself half a yard. But I would be very, very surprised. I know it could happen, but if all of a sudden, and I know you'll phone me up and let me know, if he finds his shooting boots, and goes right to the top of the goal-scoring charts for the Euros, I would be very surprised.
Dean would be less surprised. Dean, we talk about France. I mean, they are, I should say, at this stage, they're joint favourites to win the tournament, along with England. We'll discuss that another time. But France, such strength in depth, Dean, highlighted by some of the players that won't make the squad.
Yeah, and I go back to it, when I was rating the players, what level they're playing at, they're at, put it this way, they're double what Poland are. So you look at Poland's squad, the standard of football all the rest of the squad's playing in, apart from Lewandowski, the rest of them are playing at probably level 2, level 3 clubs. The whole France squad are playing at the highest level. They've got players that they can put into the team who are playing at the highest level. And they're all playing as well. They're not on the bench. So they're all fit. Kante looks like he's back to his best. So it'd be hard to leave him out, but they might do. It'd be hard to leave him out of the team with all them players they've got.
This is a team, if we're assuming Hungary, however good they might play, are booked for bottom place. But who is going to finish first, second, third in this group, Ali?
It's very difficult. You're pinning me down. I'll go France to win it. Portugal to finish second. And Germany to finish third, qualify and probably win the tournament.
But that's a very real possibility with this group, isn't it?
It is, because I would imagine all of them will beat Hungary. And 4 points will probably be enough to see a team finish third in that group and qualify. So I'm with Ali. I think France will win it, Portugal second and Germany third, but qualifying.
Do you think they'll do what you said? They'll all be sitting there
See,
on, say, 9 points.
I think they might.
We don't want to play England.
Of course you wouldn't.
We play Croatia, Czech
100%.
Republic or Scotland.
If you're sitting in that group and you've got a real decision to make, because you want to avoid England.
Yeah.
You would rather play Croatia. Of course you would Czech Republic or Scotland all day before England. You've got a real decision to make.
No chance.
No.
There's not a chance a country will go into it and say, well, we'll be better off if we draw this game.
By the way, I can inform you, and I'm the one that gets further back probably than most of you here. I remember the Germans did it. Was it the 74 World Cup? I think, I can't remember, it might have been against East Germany. Anyway, we can search that one out on YouTube. I'm not saying they'll do it again, but they did do it.
If it benefits both of them, it'll be a draw.
Yeah. They might rest their best players.
Yeah.
If they don't care if they lose because they're not playing England, they might rest their best players.
Do you honestly, I mean, this speaks volumes for England that you think teams that we've just all agreed have got fantastic players will actually be thinking, we don't want to play England.
But they don't know whether England are going to finish first or second or as well, don't they? So
not unless it's there at the end when England are sat there with...
Get them at the round after that as well, can't they? If the results work that way.
Oh, there's no question, as I say, 3 huge teams in this group, and if all 3 get through, it'd be no surprise to see them in the latter stages.
See, I've got to say, Steve, that's the absolute beauty of following Scotland. We don't look any further than the next game. You know, that problem that you're having there, Dino, will never come to us. You know, we'll not be thinking, well, we deliberately draw this one. That just ain't happening with us, mate. You know
No, I think Scotland and Wales, the object is a great Euros is to get out of the group.
Yeah.
Both of us.
Agreed.
Well, and let's hope that they do, because it's great for the home nations to have such interest. That was Group F, our group of death, which means it's now time to start putting our panel on the spot and actually getting some predictions for the tournament. Dino, I will start with you. And as you're all centre forwards, we've got to start with top tournament goal scorer. Who do you think is going to be in the running for this?
I'm going to have to... I'm hard to get it out. I'm going to say Werner. I know you're all looking at me. The silence.
Yeah,
I think Ronaldo will get his usual quarter of goals. I've just got a feeling Werner, he gets that many chances, they're all going to go in.
Timo Werner there for Germany. We are in Weil and Brewery, but
how many
He'll end up in top scorer in the tournament with 111 goals then, man.
Big odds. It'll be big odds, won't he? How many goals do you think you've got to get to finish top scorer? 5 or 6?
6 or 7.
So you've got to get to the latter stages. So you play 6 games, really. Unless you get a couple of hat-tricks.
With more games.
Somebody will get a hat-trick along the line. That's what
so I think Germany will play 6 games. They'll be there or thereabouts, 5 games. So, Lewandowski, will he play 5 games? He would be. If Lewandowski was in Germany's team or France's team, you'd back him all day long.
I think we have seen some late switches of players going into this, but sadly for
Werner.
Germany, I don't think Lewandowski will be switching.
I have said that, Werner.
Timo Werner, Dean has very much said. Ali, we are here in Weil and Brewery, but I haven't seen Dean on the beer to say Timo Werner.
No, he must have been on it intravenously then, or something going on. Is there a drip attached to him at the back? I can't see it happening, right? Now, I nearly said if he does, I'll swim the English Channel, but I won't do that, right? That's for somebody else. I'll throw one at you that will come, maybe surprise one or two, but it won't surprise you, but it's somebody that's been out the international scene
Not
for a while.
McBurney.
Benzema. I'm going to go for Benzema as an outside bet. Harry Kane's an obvious one to me. If I'm having a punt on the top scorer in the tournament, I look at somebody that's capable of getting a hat-trick. I look at somebody that takes free kicks. I look at somebody that takes penalties. That's why Harry Kane would be an obvious choice for me, right? If you're looking for a wee bit outside entrance, I've looked at it there. What have Germany got? Gnabry and Werner, you know, Lukaku obviously would be another one to spring to mind. But as a wee outsider, I think Karim Benzema.
Who's on the pens? That makes a difference.
What I just said,
Yeah.
Kane's on the pens?
Kane's on the pens. I think in that French team, I'm not sure who's on the pens.
And he might be on the free kicks as well.
Yeah.
Very rarely scores them, but he might be on them.
Ronaldo's on pens, throw-ins, free
Corners.
kicks, by kicks, you name it, he's on it.
Well, we've had fairly 2, I'd say, interesting selections, Werner and Benzema. Al, who's your selection for top goal scorer?
You can't get away from Harry Kane because of all the reasons that the lads have mentioned, but one of the best players in the world that no one's mentioned yet is Mbappe. He'll be there or thereabouts, so I wouldn't tell you any other names than those two, Harry Kane and Mbappe.
Well, we're putting our panel on the spot here with some of the standout players of the tournament. Dino, who could be the player of this tournament for you?
I've got a feeling Yilmaz, that plays for Turkey, who's just won the league on his own, basically. I've got a feeling that he's going to light the tournament up.
Some very bold predictions coming from
Great, no, it's
Dean,
great. And
Ali?
it's a player I know, I've watched him this year, he's been different class. I'll go for somebody closer to home, and I'm going to hit you with Jack Grealish. He's just a player I love watching at this moment in time. Foden's clearly another one. He's capable of lighting up anywhere, any football pitch that he's on. They've got, as we've mentioned earlier, they've got wonderful talent. I think Foden will have a great tournament, but I just think if you're looking for somebody who's maybe not going to be expected to go bang, make an impact, I think Jack Grealish has the ability to do that.
I just want to say you did hear that correctly. Ali McCoist, Scotland legend, has tipped Jack Grealish and Phil Foden to be two of the stars of this tournament. I'm quite sure what's happening in the air here today. Al, who could be one of the stars of this tournament for you?
Well, I'm not going to name any Scottish player, that's for certain.
A fair point.
Young player or player? Are we doing just a player?
A player that could light it up.
I think he'll be the top scorer. He'll be one of the top scorers, Mbappe or Kane. If and as we expect England to do well and France to do well, those two players will have to play well and score goals. So one of those two.
Well, let's stick with you, Al, there and look at some of the teams that could progress deep in this tournament. Who could be lining up in that final on July the 11th?
Well, obviously, I'm hoping that England will be one of those. I don't see a huge surprise coming out of the tournament. I think it will be from France, Portugal or England.
Ali, for you, who are two teams we could be looking at for the final?
I'll give you my semi-finalists. Obviously, it depends who finishes first, second. But I think the four teams I'll be looking at for will be England, France, Belgium and Portugal.
It's a very strong four. Dino,
Yeah,
for you?
again, they're going to knock each other out on the way, because four names go into the hat who finish third, and they get thrown up in the air. And the route to the final, are these going to meet before they get there? So if they all get through, I'd say it was the final, England-France final.
That would be an extremely exciting prospect. Dean, tournament dark horses, as we've said, this has been won by Denmark before, Greece before. So if there's someone out of the usual suspects that might go deep in this tournament?
I've said earlier, Turkey,
Yeah.
3 defeats in 23. Got 2 good centre-backs, good goalkeeper, and 2 top centre-forwards. And Yilmaz is on fire at the minute.
Ali, a team for you that could surprise us?
In terms of dark horses, Steve, it's difficult to disagree with, because Turkey are an excellent side that not everybody would think would go well in the tournament, and indeed go far in the tournament. But I think you've got 1 or 2 results that might surprise you without, the team going on to do very well. I can see North Macedonia winning the game. I can see Scotland winning the game. I can see that kind of tournament.
Al, for you, is there a team out there that could...
I would agree with Ali. Turkey, we know, when you've got someone who can score, then you've got a chance. Poland have a chance because of that main man, but I think it'd be a favourites tournament. You'll get the odd freak result here and there, but I think it's going to be a favourites tournament.
And it's time for the verdict, the one we all want to hear. We're going to put them on the spot. One word, one team. Who's going to win the Euros?
France.
France for Dean. Ali?
France.
Al?
France.
There you have it, a clean sweep for France. Even though we have representatives of Wales, Scotland and England, they've all tipped France. Well, we're here with our 3 home nations ambassadors, and we're going to try and win some money for 2 fantastic causes. One, of course, is the Alan Shearer Foundation, very close to your heart here in Newcastle, Al. And the other is for Coral's charity, Prostate Cancer UK. So we want to win some money, Dino. So £100 on your tournament winner, please, and then £100 on one other bet from the tournament.
I'll go £100 on France to win it, and I'll go £100 on Sweden to get to the last 4.
Ali, your 2 bets.
I'm winning £100 on France to win the tournament, and I'm going to have a single bet on North Macedonia to beat the Ukraine.
Well, the charities will be watching North Macedonia versus Ukraine. Good luck with that, Ali. Thank you. And Ali, your 2 bets, please.
My 2 bets will be, the first one is France to win the tournament, and the second one is for Harry Kane to be top goal scorer.
We will be keeping our fingers crossed for all of these bets. As I say, 2 fantastic.
That's why he's on Match of the Day. Safe.
Very harsh. We're trying to win money for a great cause. Good luck, chaps.